Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. I am Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. What is Talking Heads? Talking Heads is a platform for experts and leaders from around the world who come and share a 30-minute lesson with us, sharing their knowledge and expertise from decades of learnings and experience in the corporate world as well as others. I am thrilled and privileged to have a team of experts who join us, and each time I just walk away thinking, I can't believe how much I've learned. So thank you for all of those of you out there who have written to me in support of this platform. We really do appreciate it. Today, we have a dear friend who is with me. This is his time slot, so if you are interested in continuing to follow him, his name is red.olaughlin, and he is on Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, which is 8 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Red is an incredible person. He has so many certifications, so many degrees. He is a retired vet, retired from the Navy, and he is a book coach. He's an author. He's a public speaker, and he is a longevity expert. Let's welcome him to the show. Hi, Red.
Howdy. So very nice to be with you again, Dr. Jacqueline. Just always a pleasure.
It's nice to see you.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit more in that longevity area, those things that we don't want to get toward the end of our lives, along age-related diseases. So that's kind of the direction I'm going to go in today, picking up from what we learned last week and now focusing a little bit more on our brain. How can we actually have a better life 30, 40, 50, 60 years from now?
Well, I know that is something that we are all interested in, so I will let you get right to it, and then I will see you after the show.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Dr. Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Hi, red.olaughlin here. I am not a doctor. I've never worked in the research field of pharmacology or anything like that. That's not where I'm from. My background is, as she mentioned, Navy, but my first love was chemistry. Long before I ever got an invitation to Vietnam. I just really love that subject. And nowadays I use it to research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I'll look for cause and effect relationships, treat a cause, fix a problem, treat a symptom. You'll always be treating the symptom. Today I'm going to extenuate a little bit further into the longevity. One of the books that I wrote a while back is called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging, How to Live to 100 years of age with the body of a healthy 50-year-old and the mind of a 25-year-old. And a lot of what we're talking about today comes from this book, because we're actually looking at how the brain functions as we get down the road and what we can do to actually make it better. And as a corollary, my Joy of Ageless Health also covers some of the same aspects of brain health, and is kind of a nice supplement to have with it. But we're talking today about age-related diseases, and that's what I want to kind of focus on. What are these things? Well, one of the things that we've all been exposed to here in the last couple of years is COVID. And we hear the term comorbidities. People have 2 or 3 or 4 or more things health-wise that challenge their immune system, challenge their health in general. It could be a cardiovascular issue. It could be hypertension, cancer, diabetes, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, stroke, victims of dementia. A lot of things add into that, and as we get older we seem to be more susceptible to them. But do we have to be? I think the answer is no. We don't have to be as susceptible as it appears. You get older and you automatically get some of these things. Now, we talk about dementia. What exactly are we talking about? Dementia is a generic term. Most of the time you hear dementia and you think Alzheimer's. Well, Alzheimer's, probably 60, 70, 80% of the people with dementia actually have the disease called Alzheimer's. But you also have Huntington's disease, ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. You have Parkinson's. So there's other dementia related things. And the things I'm talking about today, I may mention specifically Alzheimer's, but I'm also referring to the other ones because a lot of them overlap. Some of the same cognitive declines that you have in Huntington's are very common in Parkinson's, are very common in some others. So whatever we're talking about today may not be a direct help for Parkinson's, but it's definitely going to be a collateral one that should do pretty well. Now, what do we mean by Alzheimer's? Well, very simply, it's a memory problem, memory loss, confusion, uh, cell degeneration. The neurons just aren't clicking the way they used to. Our basic function of our brain is not working, and as of right now, there's no cure. But I've seen some miraculous, nearly miraculous, even in my own family, situations where somebody begins to take something or do something. I mentioned this, I think, last week. My brother-in-law, he started taking phosphatidylserine, and literally after 2 or 3 years of progressing into early onset Alzheimer's and not even being able to tell you what year it was, within 2 months, 3 months, he could tell you what he had for dinner last night, what was on TV this morning. Uh, it was remarkable. And sometimes it's just a matter of a little deficiency in something you corrected. But if you don't know what to do, how can you do it? One of the first things a doctor does if they suspect a cognitive decline, Alzheimer's dementia, is they give you a B12 shot because B12 deficiency mimics Alzheimer's. And that's one of the reasons they give it to you. But what are the causes of dementia? Well, if you ask a doctor, they say, we don't know. And that's probably true because they don't concentrate on the cause. They concentrate on the corrective action of it. That's where they make their bread and butter. That's what they treat. So long as they're treating somebody, they're getting paid. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just that's the nature of our medical system in the United States. We do not look at preventing something. We look at fixing something once it's there. And so long as they're fixing something according to the law, in other words, they are doing exactly, they're not held accountable from a legal perspective, and I don't want them held accountable. They're doing what they are trained to do, what they know how to do. If I broke my bone, I want to go in there and get it fixed. But if I have Alzheimer's, I kind of want to know what is the cause and what can I do about it. In my wife's breast cancer, one of the things we concentrated on as soon as she got through her chemo and radiation is what were the causes and what can we change in her lifestyle? Because that's important. You don't want to come back 5 years, 10 years later and have a repeat. So if you can start addressing the causes of a particular disease or a category of diseases, the cause is what you need to look at. And today we're going to be looking at some of the causes that we possibly could end up with, more than likely in many, many cases, an age-related disease down the road. Now, all disease starts at the cellular level, chronic low-level inflammation, and proceeds from there. But we have other issues in there that we really need to look at. So when we look at dementia in general, and it's just literally for almost every disease, but dementia has a couple of unique ones. You start with inflammation. That's the ground floor. You can control that. You pretty much have control of your life. If you allow inflammation to grow and not be controlled, then you end up with oxidative stress. Again, it's a controllable activity in the body, but you're starting to allow disease to grow. Chemical imbalance is another aspect of it because now deficiencies can feed other problems. When you start looking at some of the issues in the brain, protein structural issues are a problem, and we're going to talk more about that in the future. Excitotoxicity is one. Those are generally the ones. There's some other issues in there, but those are the big six that I call them that cause any kind of dementia. But we're going to talk about brain health. We want to keep our brain as healthy as possible, and that's what I'm telling you now is going to be the same all the way through, regardless of whatever it is. You want to have balanced nutrition. You want to have your pH in a slightly alkaline condition. Exercise. If you're smoking, stop smoking. Weight management, toxin removal, heart health, gut health, blood sugar management, alcohol moderation, mind stimulation, particularly in the brain. We want that plasticity of the brain. And the more we can use our senses, multiple at one time, the better the brain likes it. A lot of us, my wife loves Sudoku, and she does that literally every night. I used to do crossword puzzles all the time. But a lot of things that we're doing to challenge our brain is just one of those things to keep our brain healthy. But how many of you know you actually have more than one brain in your body? We actually have three. We're going to talk about the second one right now. That is our gut. Our gut is referred to as the second brain in the body. And the gut has its own enteric nervous system. It controls a lot of things. Now we think about the brain having neurons and neurotransmitters. Well, the gut has the same thing. It has neurons, it has neurotransmitters, and it has hormones that facilitate that operation. And they crosstalk between the gut and the brain. And this crosstalk allows to stabilize, maintain, control our metabolism, and more importantly, for many of us, our appetite. Now, there's a particular molecule in the body called ghrelin, Grelin, ghrelin. And that's the one that starts and says, hey, I'm hungry. And you probably feel this every so often. You got a hunger pain. That's ghrelin talking to you. And many times it may be dehydration. You just haven't been drinking enough. A lot of times it's habit. We get up in the morning, we want to eat because we've always eaten. And if you go without eating, then all of a sudden maybe there is a problem because now I'm hungry. And yes, I get them too. Even when I do my fast, I do a 72-hour fast every month. That usually ends up being 100, 120 hours, but I do it to rebuild my immune system and I do it for longevity related reasons. A lot of issues with human growth hormone, other things can be controlled by fasting. But the fasting, when I mentally prepare myself for it, I have literally, I'm serious, literally no issues with ghrelin telling me I'm hungry. I do keep hydrated a lot. I drink a lot of iced tea, no sugar, but that's literally all I have: water and unsweet tea. But that ghrelin is the one that tells us every day, oh, I'm a little hungry. I need nutrition. I need something in my stomach. Okay, as you're eating and your digestive processes are starting to work, now all of a sudden you have another entry into the equation, and that is leptin. Leptin is another molecule that says, whoa, 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 you got enough. And if you pay really close attention when you're eating, and I'm talking about a large size plate, somewhere around halfway through your meal, if you're really paying attention, you'll have a body feeling that says, I could literally stop eating right now and I'd be fine. That point of satiety has been reached. I did a hypnosis thing many years ago, and that was one of the things that pointed out to me. And I said, well, maybe. And sure enough, the next time I had a meal, I paid attention and I could feel it. And even nowadays, somewhere halfway between a meal, two-thirds of the way between a meal, I am actually sated. I'm full. I'm not physically full, but my body says, if you stop there, you're fine. And that's part of that communication going on between the brain and the gut, because it's what keeps you going. But when we keep eating, that feeling of being full is over in a heartbeat. It doesn't last very long, a second or two, and it's gone, and it doesn't come back. And so that's why you can, yeah, I paid a whole lot of money for that plate. I'm going to finish it, or take it home with me and finish it when I get there. But there's a lot of things there that our bodies, our brain here and our brain and our gut are talking to each other. And a lot of times we just ignore them. But the leptin resistance, just like insulin resistance, sometimes researchers think there's a link between leptin resistance and part of the beta amyloid protein and tau tangles in the brain. And we'll talk about that down the road in one of the next sessions. We'll be talking about Alzheimer's in more detail. Also in our gut, we have what we call autoimmune diseases. And Dr. Jacqueline in the past says, yeah, I got a couple of those. And it's an issue of several different things that a lot of people don't even understand, but there's about 130 that last time I checked that cause because something in the gut is not working right. 80% of our gut is our immune system. In a normal meal, we eat our food, it passes through the stomach, goes through the duodenum into the intestine. And when it gets into the intestine, you have a protein down there called zonulin. Zonulin opens tiny, tiny microscopic pores that allows the digestive material, the nutrients that we need, to pass into the bloodstream. Well, as it's leaving the intestine and passing into the bloodstream, it's going through your immune system. And if you got a good immune system, boom, everything gets through there fine. But occasionally something causes zonulin to overgrow. It could be the gut biome itself. You just have a really out of balance with the flora that's in there. A lot of people attribute not ghrelin, gluten to causing zonulin overgrowth. And when it overgrows, instead of getting the tiny holes, now you get the bigger holes. And those bigger holes allow everything to pass through the immune system. Now, all of a sudden, the immune system is being challenged because so much stuff is coming through, it can't handle it. And you end up with undigested materials in their toxins, who knows what. Now your body is taking that in your bloodstream and circulating it. Heaven only knows what happens, but down the road, you may end up with multiple sclerosis, eczema, and rheumatoid arthritis, just a number of different autoimmune diseases. And you could end up with thyroid issues, just a Hashimoto's, just a lot of issues happen out there because the gut is out of control. And so it's a really, you have to control the gut just as much as you're controlling the brain in order to have that health. A healthy brain requires a healthy gut. Now, what are indicators of issues in the gut? Well, sugar, too much of that, gluten. Um, Casein is a molecule that's almost the mirror image of gluten. It's in cheese. Now, cheese from European cows is a little bit different, but the cheese from American cows, the dairy products, have that. And some people who are gluten sensitive or intolerant also have a sensitivity or an intolerance to dairy products. Uh, Skin rashes, fatigue is a big one. Sleep quality goes away. If you have an upset stomach, you're not sleeping very well. Fiber is needed, absolutely. If you don't have fiber in your diet, constipation can be a problem. Uh, Intolerances are usually an indication. I used to be a runner. I'd run 3, 4, 5 times a week, races a couple times, Wednesdays and Fridays, and occasionally Saturdays. But after the race, they always had a beer truck there, and we go there and have a couple beers, and everything's fine, and solve the problems of the world. And for a short period of time, I could have one beer and everything was fine. But for a period of about 3 or 4 months, maybe longer, if I had a second beer, I got an instant headache. Before I even got finished drinking the second glass of beer, I'm talking about a short one, not a big one, plastic cup. That second beer, just for whatever reason, I just got a splitting headache right down the middle, some kind of intolerance. About that same time, I also developed an intolerance for tomatoes. Love them, I could eat them, but then my lips would burn. I put a tomato. It took me a while to figure out what was causing my lips to burn, but I stopped using certain things, and all of a sudden, I stopped eating tomatoes for a couple of months. Came back to it, fine. Came back to the beer after a couple of months of just not doing it at all, fine. But occasionally we develop intolerances, and that's part of our gut health. Now, we need exercise because everything's got to move through the system. Our lymphatic system relies on gravity, but as you start exercising the muscles, you're forcing the lymphatic system to get that fluid through there. And that's part of what we're doing is getting the entire body going well. But balanced nutrition, absolutely, you don't want deficiencies. Portion control, go with a smaller plate. You don't have to fill up a large plate every single time you eat. If you're going to a restaurant, tell them ahead of time, I want a doggy bag, so you just sit there and eat half of it. You put the just you can plan ahead of time. You don't have to wait and rely on everything at the last minute. Calorie restrictions. Those people who are eating generally about 30% less calories, particularly in animals, they found they live 30, 40% longer. Humans, when you start cutting back on the amount of calories, you're right on the borderline of starvation. And that actually helps in the age related aspects of your life. You're keeping your human growth hormone levels up. A lot of the activities that just kind of fade over time tend to not be as big. So, stress management, a super big one. You really need on a daily basis, more than once a day, whether it's just a little bit of relaxation. I take a 7 to 9 minute nap at least once a day. I try every so often, maybe twice a week, I might take a second one. But that's just part of my letting go, just kind of relax, let the muscles go. Smiling a lot, that's always good. Laughing. There are a lot of things people can do to relax, to get stress done. Exercise is a great one. But let's talk about that third brain we have in our body, and that's our heart. Our heart is literally called the third brain. There's a connection between the heart and the brain. Now, the heart only has 39 million neurons. You wouldn't think of neurons. The brain has what, 100 million of them, something like that. 90 billion neurons in the brain, 100 million neurons in the gut and in the stomach, but only 40 or so million neurons in the heart. It also has some neurotransmitters, but it's not like the same neurotransmitters that you might find in the gut. The neurotransmitters in the gut probably, well, about half of what you have in your brain. The brain, I think, is about 60 different neurotransmitters. The gut has around 30. But the heart has its own intrinsic, what do you call it? Intrinsic, oh, I know it. Intrinsic nervous system, intercardiac nervous system. And it has its own system in there, and it's almost like it has its thinking going on for it. And so in that whole process there, they even have a new system now, new energy cardiology is what it's called. And it's part of the development of that thinking part of the heart that we don't even probably never heard of before. But the heart health is critical. I'll mention that in a minute. There are blood tests for inflammation, but there's also a blood test I get every year at my annual physical called homocysteine. And homocysteine is a chemical that is produced when certain deficiencies occur. So if you have a deficiency in B6, B12, B9, the folate, zinc, trimethylglycine, a lot of sulfur-rich compounds, you have a deficiency in those, your homocysteine level goes up. The increase of heart issues, heart cardiovascular issues goes up. So that's a simple, easy one. Probably 40, 50 bucks in most cases. You can have it done without your doctor's permission. But it tells you it used to be the gold standard for heart health. Nowadays, the gold standard for heart health is the measurement ratio between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. You want to try to keep that as close to 1-to-1 as possible. Many of our processed foods rely on omega-6 fatty acids, those are vegetable oil kinds of things. And if you have too many omega-6 fatty acids, it acts as an inflammatory agent in the body. So 4-to-1 is probably the max between vegetable oils, the omega-6s, and the omega-3s. But ideally, 1-to-1 is what you want. That's the one that keeps your heart healthy and everything else in your body going. But homocysteine level blood test, super simple, get the results back very quickly. Genetics. Well, you hear, well, my mom had breast cancer when she was 49. Her grandmother died of something we think it was cancer. Yes, genetics play a big, big role. And we start looking at Alzheimer's in particular. Genetics appears to have, well, these people have a lot more of this than that. And that gene is passed down. All of us have this thing called APOE. APOE. It's a apolipoprotein E. And that basic protein is a biochemical diverter. It acts as a key in the brain to handle the lipids coming in, the oils and the plasma, and making sure everything gets sent to the right direction. And when you do that, everything's working fine. However, we have different classes of these APOEs, and one of them is an E2, one's E3, and E4. Well, if you have two E2s, and these are what you get from your parents, everything's fine. Very, very, very low risk of ever having any kind of brain cognitive issue. E3s generally the same, slightly more. But if you have some E4s, now you got maybe 3 to 5 times the likelihood of having some kind of brain issue caused by a genetic factor. Now, if you're looking at people who have Alzheimer's, they've found that generally over half, generally somewhere between 40 and around 65% of the people have this APOE E4 gene. And that in itself is kind of indicative. 60% of the people have this, and of the Alzheimer's patients actually have this. Well, that is kind of a big clue. But of those who have it, 20 to 30% have just a single copy of the E4. In other words, they may have an E2 and E4, an E3 and E4, but a third of those people who have it actually have just one E4. Now, those people who have both is around 2%. It's the E4 in itself is a pretty definitive thing. But how do you activate a gene? Well, it's like a light switch. The things we do in our lives on a daily basis, our lifestyle, either turns on or turns off the light switch of many genes in our bodies. And so if you could turn on a gene just by flipping on a light switch, you could turn it off just as easily. Now, what are we talking about? Genes flipping on and off a light switch. Exercise, stress management, weight management, just anything you're thinking about as far as smoking, the things we do to keep our bodies healthy, or the things we do not to keep our bodies healthy, are turning on or off the genes we have. So we actually have about a 95% chance of actually controlling the gene being off by doing those things that we need to do on a daily basis and keeping and maintaining our health. Let's jump to the last one we have, as I see the time is getting down toward the end, and it's just about the right amount of time. Inflammation, talked about that before. Inflammation are free radicals that go in and they just grab, snatch an electron off in order to stabilize themselves. They're missing an electron, they need one, they find a molecule next to them, and they just snatch it. Well, the molecule they snatched it from now becomes a free radical, and it's going off in its merry way trying to find another molecule to stabilize. Normal part of life, this is absolutely happens every single second of every day of our lives. It's normal. It's just the way we work. Antioxidants are compounds that actually provide extra electrons. You can snatch an electron from a vitamin C molecule, and you're not creating a new free radical. And as such, antioxidants are what tamp down, maintain that inflammation under control at the cellular level. Left uncontrolled, that inflammation can create oxidative stress over time. That's not what we want. But on a daily basis, the antioxidants, and where do we get those from? The foods, our vegetables and fruits. Where do you get the free radicals from? From your foods, from the pesticides, from the artificial flavors, artificial colors, hormones, the toxins, stress, digestion, exercise. Everything in the world creates a problem with regard to free radicals. So you really need more vegetables and more fruits than you have fats, carbohydrates, and proteins in order to keep that inflammation under control. Now, a simple test, blood test, that can be as little, I've seen as low as around $13, but generally figure 40, $50 in most cases. Go down to the local lab and CRP, called C reactive protein. It is a protein that when the body becomes inflamed, it generates C reactive protein. You can measure it. Now, the problem is you can't tell it where it's coming from. So if you have a elevated CRP, you need to talk to your doctor to find. Same thing with elevated homocysteine level. If it's outside the normal range or below the normal range, you really need to talk to your doctor. So you go in there and you say, hey, here's my homocysteine, here's my CRP. And they'll say, well, let's talk about your family history. Do you have what this or this? Because that's generally, genetically speaking, where they might want to start with. But there are other tests they can do. So CRP will tell you you have body level, but not specific. Now, one of the interesting things about inflammation in the brain is that type 3 diabetes is an inflammation of the brain. That's one of the, not everybody's calling it that, but it's becoming in vogue. And it's due to an insulin dysfunction in the brain. So you end up with a lot of blood sugar issues. And over time, you end up with an inflammation. That is generally being called now a type 3 diabetes. So again, control your insulin just like you control everything else. Blood sugar is super critical for just normal operations in the body. How do we prevent inflammation? Well, I mentioned it earlier, antioxidants. But one free radical does not equal one antioxidant. You have many different kinds of free radicals. You have many different kinds of antioxidants, and you need to mix and match as often as possible. You can't just take spinach every day as the only vegetable you have. You need your berries, you need a lot of other things. So you need as many different kinds of antioxidants as you can possibly get in. Nutrient balance, you don't want to be going around B12 deficient. Resveratrol is a very good one. That comes from your wine, from your grapes. But resveratrol is very difficult to get bioabsorbed in the body. As such, you need black pepper extract called piperine. It makes it super bioavailable. And so if you're having resveratrol and you're taking it as a supplement, and many people do, make sure on the label it says piperine or black pepper extract, because that's what activates in the body that particular nutrient. Omega-3 fatty acids, great one. Again, don't overpower them with the omega-6. Green tea. Let me come back to green tea in a minute because I do want to finish this. That I want to finish on the green tea note. But magnesium, calcium, and your basic vitamin D, vitamin E, and there's 8 different kinds of vitamin E. You need all 8 of them. So if you're looking for on the label mixed tocopherols or mixed tocotrienols, you need all 8 of them. And one of them, I believe it's the alpha tocotrienol. Literally, if you have almost that much in your brain, you probably survive a stroke without many symptoms at all, because side effects, because it has the tendency to cause in the brain angiogenesis, opening up a blood vessel around a blockage very quickly. So that's what you need. And your B vitamins, your B6, your B12, your B9, your folate. But let's just jump in our conclusion. I want to talk about green tea. Green tea has several catechins in it. One of the catechins I really love to talk about is epigallocatechin gallate, EGCG. And as such, they found in animal models that the EGCG actually changes the shape, the molecular shape of the beta amyloid protein. In a normal environment, the beta amyloid protein will sit right on top of a neuron, almost like a glove, and it starves it. It just kills the neuron. That's why you have that cell degeneration, neurodegenerative. But when you're in the presence of EGCG and the animal models, they found out that the molecular structure of the beta amyloid changes just slightly, but it can't hang on to the neuron. It falls off. So you end up now with a preventive option, a corrective option on those other ones that are there. And they actually found out using MRI that where they thought that cell was dead, that neuron was either replaced or it came back to life. So green tea is an absolute must for brain health. Now, I've had a couple of people say I can't take caffeine. You can actually buy the green tea extract without the caffeine, and it is a supplement. But I take 6 different teas every day as part of my normal longevity practice. I go through a picture of it, but green tea is one of those things I have every single day. So with that, Dr. Jacqueline, I'm going to wrap it up on today's show, and we could call it a wrap.
Thank you so much, Red. Fantastic information. You really zoned in on so many things that are relevant to all of us, especially me with 3 autoimmune diseases, and you and I talk on a regular basis about that. I'm so glad that you brought up the genetic factor, because that's one thing that I've been saying for years. My father had certain things that I have, my grandmother on his side, his mother, and people will say, oh, no, it has nothing to do with that. It's all related to stress. And I don't believe that. So, I'm on the board of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation, and I lead support groups. And I think stress has a huge thing. It's a big part of it, but I don't think it's the only thing. Go ahead.
Stress is one of those things that turns on the switch. That's why you
Yes.
need your diet control, no smoking, stress management, all those things keep that switch turned off. So if you're stressed, I mean, you only do 9 shows a day. That's probably not very stressful. You need to be doing. I know you do a lot of exercise on a daily basis. On top of that, smiling is a very minor way, but works all the time. Immediate trigger to shut down a little bit of that stress. So those are things that if we're not aware of it, we keep doing the same old things and we get the same old results that our parents and our grandparents got because they didn't know either.
Exactly. Yes, I agree with you. I personally don't think I'm under a lot of stress. I think I thrive on what I'm doing. So anyway, it's sort of like a puzzle. Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it the go to the allergist, go to the dermatologist, go to the gastroenterologist, go to the supplement store? It's a lot of things. So you bring everything together for us, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so very much. I love letting you ask me what time it is, I'll build you a watch. Some people don't want that, but again, it's just one of those things. I love to share what I have. That's why I write. I've got about 1,400 blogs on my website, and literally almost every single one of them have some aspect dealing with health, longevity. 300, almost 400 deal with COVID. So it's just one of those things. I research and I share my information as much as I can.
You're doing great work, Red. And we have posted your contact information, but would you like to share it as well for people listening on the radio?
Yes, my website is red.olaughlin.com. That's red like the color, RED, OLAUGHLIN, red.olaughlin.com, REDOLAUGH.com. Now, I can be reached at red.olaughlin@gmail.com or red@red.olaughlin.com. But those are the easiest ways to get in touch with me, through the website or through my Gmail or my website email address.
Thank you so much, Red, and thank you everyone for watching. We will be back in an hour and a half with entrepreneurs and so much more. Red and I look forward to seeing you next week, and I'll be here all week broadcasting. If you'd like to be a guest on any of our shows, please go to our website, usaglobaltv.com, book your session. And if you'd like to watch our shows on the live, we're sending everybody to the YouTube channel, even though we stream a number of other places. Please go over to YouTube so we can get all the analytics and data that they provide there. And that channel name is, you guessed it,
USA Global TV.
Thank you so much, Red. All right, bye everyone. We'll see you again shortly for the next show.
Bye, Dr. Jacqueline.
Bye-bye.